We are through 3 weeks of Legacy Leagues action in the summer 22 season, and 6 teams have at least 2 wins, and 1 team has already failed to live up to their social media hype of running the table. And so we'll get to that. We're going to break down all the week 3 action. We got some good looks from the guys who were joined by Tim and Ryan for the week 3 post-game show. But guys, let's start with the game of the week. I know Ryan was over on court 1, so we'll get to him in a second, making his debut on the post-game show. But guys, you guys definitely both heard about it, because I kept talking about it during the 9 o'clock games. But the Halfway Crooks fall to the Duyays boys by 2. Again, your game of the week, so 67-65. Back and forth game, Halfway Crooks up by double digits. And again, you know, we talked a lot last week, and we can kind of get to Tim. I want to focus on this game. But, you know, we talked last week about teams that we think can compete. You know, our locks of the week, we're going to do that again for week 4 as we look ahead at the end of the post-game show. But focusing on the Halfway Crooks and Duyays boys, a game we expected coming in, right, to be exactly what we got. So again, the game of the week, I got a couple thumbs up on the court, like, you know how to pick them. It's like, yeah, been picking them for a while, but you know, Halfway Crooks up by double digits. We'll get to Ryan, you know, to kind of give his 2 cents on how that the Halfway Crooks were able to do that. Duyays boys come storming back. And then it was just a back and forth fourth quarter. And that's exactly what we're looking for. That's the fun stuff in the league. So Ryan, we'll get over to you. Halfway Crooks again. So first half and halftime, I mean, we're going to get the box score on the screen in a second, but Crooks up 13 at halftime, it looks like, by that box score. And then again, Duyays boys erase that going into the fourth quarter. But let's start there. How were the Halfway Crooks, Ryan, able to get that double-digit lead on a Duyays boys team that, like we've talked about, right, have won it all? So they're a tested team, and the Crooks were up double digits. How are they able to do it, Ryan?
Yeah, so I think the Halfway Crooks for that first half, they were able to knock down a lot of shots, and they that ability, and they were able to have stops. They held Duyays boys to 15 points each quarter, and then in that second quarter, especially when Halfway Crooks scored 25, that 10-point gap in that second quarter really propelled them to that 13-point lead at half. And they could, and that momentum was evident going into halftime. And then, but as we could see in the third quarter, Duyays boys held the Halfway Crooks to 8 points, which is in this league pretty significant, along with scoring 22 themselves. So I mean, so that 10-minute stretch right there just flipped the game on its head.
For sure. And Ryan, you touched on the Duyays boys. Let's talk about the Halfway Crooks really quick. Like, what player, you know, had the biggest impact for them while they were building that lead for the Halfway Crooks?
Yeah, I think definitely Jeff Winchell. He's that big presence inside. He's always a force down there. And then I felt like Jared Hansen as well. At one point, the Duyays boys got a double technical assessed against themselves. And he came in and stepped up and knocked down four free throws, which was big. So I felt like those 2 players really carried that first half for the Halfway Crooks.
Yeah, and so, you know, we touched on that, and Hansen, you know, we looked at his box score a second ago, his stat line, but 4 for 13. And I saw that after, and I was a little surprised, and I was there, playing. I'll put that in quotes, but it didn't feel like 4 for 13, right? You know, big. You know, I think he had 3 3-pointers, right, of his 4 field goals, and kind of you see in those highlights as well, like clutchly timed 3-pointers. By Jared Hansen, kind of like what he does. And again, Jeff Winchell was huge. We can go to Tim, even just looking at the box score. You know, I like focusing on the games when they're close, and then we're going to kind of go through all the games like we always do. But we can go over to Tim. You know, Duyays boys, you know, Volpe and Kutu, and I'll spit it out there. 6 made threes for Volpe kept the Duyays boys in it a lot of times. And not that they were ever, you know, in danger of, you know, not being in the game. But, you know, Tim, looking at that box score, I mean, those 2 really carried the way clearly, right? Over 20 points each. You know, what do you see from that about the Duyays boys and how they were able to get this win and battle in that fourth quarter?
Yeah, so for that, I would say the whole season, we pretty much seen what we're going to get from John Kutu. He's going to put up his numbers. He's going to facilitate. He's going to score. For the success of the Duyays boys going forward, I'd say basically their supporting cast, along with Vincent Volpe, Brian Yarse. If they're giving Kutu shooters to kick out to, that really opens up the floor for him to potentially drive, open up other opportunities for his teammates on cuts. Honestly, yeah, but if Duyays shoots the ball like that, it's going to be really hard to defend them with Kutu with the ball in his hands.
Yeah, and so let me switch screens really here, you know, real quick. But, you know, the Duyays boys, again, shot 40% from the field and just about 30% from three, but Yarcy with 2 big threes, Volpe with 6, like I talked about, compared to the halfway crook shooting nearly identical. And that kind of talks about this game, right? In a nutshell, I mean, 40% from the floor and 30.4% from three for the crook. So, a lot of, and I mean, let's get to it really quick. I mean, the free throws, 6 for 11 for the Duyes boys, 6 for 16 for the crooks. When you talk about losing a game by 2, right? I didn't even realize that till right now I'm looking at it. When you lose a game, by 2 and you miss 10 free throws, there you go, right? And that is a huge momentum swing as well. So again, Duyes boys improved to 3-0. Halfway crooks fall to 2-1, but again, a battle and a hopefully a game we get to see again. And that's not even me being biased like that. These are the matchups that we want in the playoffs, that's for sure. And so, yeah, again, Duyes boys, one of 2 remaining undefeated teams. We're going to get to the other one in a second. But let's jump over, let me pull up the schedule really quick, to the Werewolves and the Lincoln 18ers. And so, it's a 7-point win for the Werewolves, 71-64, but they were up, more than that every time I looked over throughout most of the second half. We'll get to Tim here on that one. I mean, the Werewolves, again, 4 guys. Okay. So that always plays a factor. No subs. All right. So, I'm sure they got a little tired, and Brian Heston admitted it in his interview after the game, but to kind of let that game slip away is uncharacteristic for the Werewolves. What did they do throughout that game? I hate doing the same question, but how are they able to build that lead, right? I mean, the Lincoln 18ers are 0-3 after losing that game and have made some plays where, they're starting to get it, right? The Werewolves have gotten it for many seasons now, right? So what did they do even with 4 guys in the Werewolves, Tim, that allowed them to, get that lead and battle through some of the fatigue I'm sure they were facing?
Yes. So for this game, for sure, it was a tale of 2 halves. Werewolves, they were clinging to a tight lead at halftime. Their second half adjustments were great. Lincoln really struggled taking the ball to the rim, taking the ball to the basket, and they didn't shoot well from 3. So when that's not really going well for them, Heston really made a big impact. Probably one of the best defensive games I've seen. I think he had 6 steals, 7 blocks, something like that. He pretty much was affecting shots around the rim the entire night. And basically once that happened, they were getting out in transition. Once you get out in transition, just easy buckets. And it kind of demoralizes a team like Lincoln that really fought hard in the first half. They were really moving the ball well. I like how Lincoln plays. They really play as a team. They drive, they kick, they shoot. I don't anticipate Ethan Cloutier to shoot that poorly again. So I think better days are ahead for Lincoln.
Yeah, and you touched on it. I was going to kick it back to you, to kind of touch on the Lincoln 18ers, but Heston's stat line, 31 points, 3 threes, 14 rebounds, 8 assists, 6 blocks, 7 steals. So, I mean, again, he didn't come out of this game. They didn't have any subs, and he won't sub out a lot in a big game anyway. So that's not a reason he was doing all these things on the court. Kind of does that stuff anyway, right? 40, 26, Jared Gansert with 12, and Connor Harrington only with 2, which is a little shocking because he's the big man that they were missing if we go back a week when they played Sin City, right? And so Connor Harrington definitely impacted some shots. I mean, 8 rebounds and only a block, but I know how long he is and impact shots down low. Kind of focusing on the Lincoln 18ers. I mean, they're 0-3. Tim, and we can go a little more briefly. You mentioned Ethan, Cloutier, who 0 for 11, right? Is that what it says in there? So, what were the Lincoln 18ers doing well, and what can they build on, when they get ready for next week?
I mean, Lincoln did a lot well in the first half. I thought this game was going to potentially go down to the wire, but just third quarter, their offense only scoring 8 points. That's not really going to cut it. But what they did well is really move the ball. I mean, this team moves the ball as well as anybody in the league. It seems like they all love playing with each other. They have a lot of good chemistry. And Ryan Musket was getting easy cut dunks a lot of the time. There were a lot of wide open shots created. It could have been a little fatigue based on Werewolves, leaving them open sometimes. But, hey, I mean, that's what you got to do. Get them tired, move the ball, get them in rotation, make the defense rotate. And, yeah, I think that formula definitely could base for an improvement going forward for them.
Yeah, and so I just checked Lincoln 18ers play Bogey Kicks next week. So our 2 winless teams two of our three winless teams, excuse me. We're going to get to the other winless team right now in the Ozone Boys, which definitely more shocking. The other two are just new teams. And this happens when you're a new team in a league and you run into some of the better teams. But next week, Bogey Kicks and the Lincoln 18ers. So there we go. So hopefully they can put some of this together right against Bogey Kicks. And we're going to get to Bogey Kicks week 3 game in a second. Let's get to our other close-ish game. And I'm going to get to Ryan on this like we talked about before we went on the air. Rhode Island Warriors beat the Ozone Boys, both teams 0-2 coming in, 81-75 for the Warriors. Like we said, Ryan, right? It was a double-digit game just about for the Warriors. I would say through the first 3+ quarters. I mean, I was surprised to see it finish a 6-point game. We know things can happen at the end of a basketball game, right? Hitting some shots, missing some free throws, and things like that can happen. But it was the Warriors in control without Kevin Figueredo, right? So, I forget who I was talking to that was like, yeah, I kind of expected the Warriors to be up, double digits in the second quarter, let's say. And I was like, I don't know. I mean, the Ozone Boys play small, but without Kevin Figueredo for the Warriors, who is their big man, right? He's big. He's definitely big. But, without him, it's like, all right, this should be even a better game than we expected. And it was the Warriors jumping out big. So Ryan, what did the Warriors do? And I know, Gian, I got clarification on his name. So that's how we're doing it. He's like, I don't care what you call me, but it is Gian. So, he had a good night. He had some poster dunks, but I mean, as a team, they definitely shot it better than what I remember. And I think that's one of the things that helped them get that lead. But what do you say?
Yeah, I mean, Gian definitely is a huge factor in how well how the Warriors go. And I think, just looking at the box score, you can see that even though the Warriors had 6 turnovers and the Ozone Boys had 8 turnovers, those 8 for the Ozone Boys seemed a lot more significant because the Warriors then were able to get in transition. That led to Gian being able to get those highlight dunks and easy baskets. Whereas when the Ozone Boys turned over the Warriors, it wasn't like they were getting into transition and the Warriors were able to get back and set up a defense. So I felt like that was that played a key part. And then, I mean, I think it was the mid third quarter, maybe early fourth quarter, Gian went on a stretch there where it seemed like he just made everything, and he had 8-10 points in a row that really just kept that spacing in between the Warriors and the Ozone Boys, and ultimately was the key part of the difference at the end.
Yeah, there's 2 different types of turnovers, right? Like some of them that lead to buckets, which is what Lob City does so well, which is what the Duyes boys did against the Halfway Crooks, right? They're getting, it doesn't even necessarily have to be a steal. If it's a long rebound, it acts like a steal in some cases, right? And those teams know how to turn that into 2 points quickly and easily and efficiently. And it's a dunk, it's a lob, and you blink. And that's what happened with the Halfway Crooks. Not to go back, you blink and the lead is gone because it's like steal, long rebound, 2 misses, and whatever. And so, kind of same thing for the Warriors, right? That's their game. That was what they focused on, and that's what they did against the Ozone Boys. The Ozone Boys battled back though, Ryan. So we'll toss it back quickly. I mean, Patrick Hogan, 23 points, 53, let's forget the free throw, sorry, 13% from 3 for the Ozone Boys. And we talked about them being a smaller team, right? So if you're gonna go that route, which is kind of just how their personnel falls, you better make some shots to make up for it. 13% from 3 for them, 25% from 3 for the Warriors, but the Warriors made 9 to the Ozone Boys 3-pointers. And so, you can quickly kind of touch on the Ozone Boys this way. What did they do to get back? Or how did they hang around, and what are they going to do next week to kind of get that first win?
Yeah, so I think to get themselves back into the game, it was a big part of they run, what is that, 7-8 guys. So it was, instead of just doing those platoon every couple minutes, it was keeping people out on the floor for longer stretches and being able to have your best players on the floor and being able to be a unit. And looking at the box score in terms of what quarters they won, they won 3 of the 4 quarters. So something, especially in that second half, worked. And so I think to be able to get that win is that continuing to figure out what 4 work out on the floor at the same time and be able to continue their success from the second half. And I think they'll eventually get that first win, because I know that seeing as they do run 7 or 8 deep, they're going to be pretty good.
Yeah, and so we talked about it. The Ozone Boys fall to 0-3. Rhode Island Warriors get their first win. They'll take on the Halfway Crooks next week. The Ozone Boys get Only the Fam, and Only the Fam was 2-0, another one of those 2-0 teams. They fall to Lob City this week. That's called a transition, guys. Take notes. That's how you transition here. Only the Fam loses in week 3 to Lob City, 118-87, in another battle of 2-0 teams, Only the Fam and Lob City. And so we'll go to that game over on court 3. And so, I mean, yeah, 23-21 after the first quarter. Even I know I'm reading stats here, but a 2-point game after one quarter maybe had some people surprised. And then if I do math quickly, that's a 26-point lead at halftime, right? So that's how quickly things change. I mean, we can focus on the, the second quarter, which I'm sure is when that run came, Tim. But, Lob City, impressed and took care of business. And they are the other 3-0 team. So kind of as I would have guessed, as a lot of people would have bet, Lob City and the Duyes boys are 3-0 through 3 games. How did Lob City get that third win?
Well, yeah. So about that first quarter, Jose didn't start the game. So once he came in, the whole entire game kind of changed. Nobody really can jump with Jose, and once Jose Mercado gets out in transition, it's pretty much, it demoralizes the other team. And you're just seeing him throw down windmills and all these crazy dunks while you're just can stand there and watch at half court. I mean, there's not much you could do. But, I mean, there are a lot of other people contributing for Lob City. They have really good depth on this team. And that's what makes them so hard to beat. There's not really anyone on this team that can't play. I mean, they just have too much size. Only the Fam, Jaren and Jake Perry, they really were no match for Lob City's bigs this game defensively. Colin Burns, Nuri, Mahmoud had big nights down low. Yeah, I mean, Jaren, he did his thing for sure, scoring wise, but same thing with Tucker Ayala, a very impressive shooting night, but it just never ended up mattering because, when Lob City turns you over, Corey Crawford's got the ball, there's not much you can do with those guys.
Yeah, and so we can talk about Lob City, which I'm sure we will when we get to some of our questions, after we preview week 4 and make our locks of the game. But yeah, so a huge second quarter, and then it's kind of just coasting from there for Lob City, which is kind of how it usually goes. Jaron Thomas with 36, Tucker Ayala with 28 for Only the Fam, as you guys still see the box scores there. 5 players with 14 points or more for Lob City. And so there you go, right? That balance. They only had 6 guys. I know Carl, Lee is there. He checked in and kind of messed around for a minute, but really 6 guys. They're missing Dub and Greg Holt. So again, add in 2 more guys, right, to that ability to kind of have that depth and continue to rotate for Lob City. So next week, in a rematch of one of the season's finals, Lob City will take on the Werewolves, who are 2-1, right? Werewolves 2-1, believe so. Cool. Head nods. I can check. I have stats in front of me. Yep. Werewolves 2-1. Awesome. So 2-1, 3-0 next week will be a good game. Again, a finals rematch like I talked about. And Only the Fam, as we previously talked about, gets ready for the Ozone Boys. And that's going to tell us a lot about Only the Fam. And I'm excited for that, right? So that, like we talked about, Ozone doesn't have a ton of size. Tim just got done saying Only the Fam, right, didn't have enough size to match up with Lob City, and not many teams do. And so those 2 teams are going to go at it. And it'll be some high flying dunks and some good basketball. That's for sure. Some guard play, how the NBA wants it to be, right? No post moves in that game. That's for sure. We will get to our last game of the night. Bogey Kicks and Sin City, and Sin City wins by 27. So much for, like I talked about in the open, we got Bogey Kicks over there, hashtag run the table. I'm getting a t-shirt made. I think it's hilarious. They couldn't even go 24 hours without being unable to complete that hashtag there, but that's all right. It happens. This is what happens when you talk shit on social media. I just choose not to do it because then it's there forever, right? And you just get made fun of on post-game shows. Sin City wins 90-63, and you guys both saw this game, so I'll let you guys both jump in on this. Sin City improves to 2-1. So I'll say it. I'm happy the Halfway Crooks played Sin City when we did, because I don't want to play them now. That's for damn sure. They're starting to figure some stuff out, and I'll let you guys break them down. Bogey kicks again had their moments, but just too much for Sin City, too much size. Here we go again, right? Going back to the size. Ryan, we'll go to you first because Tim just talked. Sin City, that size and Devin Pina, right? Again, 3 weeks in a row, I'm sure, but 2 weeks really making a statement and putting his imprint on the game.
Yeah, definitely. Devin was a huge factor in this game. I mean, when you shoot 15 to 20, you shoot 29 shots in the game, like that's already a large number, and then you make 15 of them. That's pretty significant. And then adding in the 5 threes he made, and I think probably 3 or 4 of them were in that in the third quarter, when it just seemed like every time he got the ball behind the 3-point arc, it was just an automatic basket. And he said that in the interview after the game. He talked about how good it felt to make a bunch of those threes. So I think, and like we were talking about with size, I mean, they also have Javon Morris. Now I know he did shoot 6 to 7 from the field, and he's definitely a presence on the defensive end of the floor along with Taj. So I think with their size and along with Taj's ability to guard some of the guards in the league, they do match up well with teams, and they do have the ability to turn you over and get those easy baskets with that size.
Yeah, and so Tim, I mean, bogey kicks, it's not the total, shit on bogey kicks post-game show, right? I mean, 0-3, and they're going to have their matchup next week, like we talked about, right, against Lincoln 18ers. So we'll get to really see what the team has. But, David DePina, 25, Matt Pagassian, 13. Shots are falling 8 for 47 from 3. That's not what we're looking for from 3. That's a 17%, right? But Tim, I mean, bogey kicks, and how were they able to keep it close, and what can they build on?
Well, how would they were able to keep it close? I mean, it was the effort of DePina. The thing is, I think a lot of teams should take a look into how they guarded DePina this game. They played him pretty much the free throw line. They let him shoot, and I think he may have started 0 for 10 at least. He made a couple in the second half, but I think teams are going to live with that. I mean, DePina is a guy that's explosive athlete, can get to the basket. I mean, they're going to live with him shooting if he's shooting like this. I just think with bogey kicks, it comes down they have to shoot the ball better. I mean, that's their game. They're going to drive, they're going to kick, and 17% is just not going to cut it, especially when you can't really compete size-wise and on the boards. They're just going to have to shoot better, simply.
Yeah, 3 for 18 for DePina, right, from 3. So, yep, teams will live with that 17% from the 3-point line. Tim, we'll let you get Sin City, a word in on them because they definitely deserve it, right? 2-1, like we talked about. Again, I don't want to play them now, so I'm happy we don't, as in the halfway crooks. But next week they get the Duyes boys, so that'll be an awesome test for them. I think another good test for the Duyes boys, who we saw this week, right? Shane was unable to play for the second half, but that allowed them to go small in the Duyes boys. And as we I want to look towards week 4 a little bit here, guys. So, like I said, Duyes boys, Sin City. The Duyes boys had a lot of success in week 3, going with that 4-guard lineup of, Yarsi, Kutu, Tartaglia, and Volpe, right? And Volpe held his own down low. And, shout out to him for battling with Jeff Winchell, who we talked about that game already. So now we take that into week 4. Sin City has big bodies, right? Like we talked about. They got their big guys hitting threes, and Duyes boys' best lineup is 4 smaller guys. They can defend everybody. Okay. The Duyes boys 4 can figure out how to defend probably any lineup they're going to see, but they're not the biggest, right? So Tim, what do you see in that matchup? I mean, Sin City's size versus Duyes boys. They have some size, but Duyes boys' strength in their guards.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a very interesting matchup. It's going to be very interesting to see how Shane Patrick matches up against the size of these bigs like Javon Morris and Devin Pina. He hasn't really faced anyone like that yet, so it's going to be interesting to see if he can neutralize them in any kind of way, because Sin City's whole kind of game goes through Devin, and Javon is obviously an imposing force as well. I think it all comes down to in this matchup is how Taj Eddington is able to limit John Coutu offensively. He definitely has looked great on the defensive end so far. So everything goes through Coutu, obviously, for Duyes boys. So that's the matchup I'm looking for in that game.
Awesome. And so, we're going to do it. We're going to go. You guys are killing it. So we're going to take the extra time here. Let's go through each of these week 4 matchups. Ryan, I will give you Ozone Boys and Only the Fam. So we talked about them briefly, but these two teams. So Only the Fam, 2-1, Ozone Boys, 0-3. And again, I think it's going to be a great game, not indicative of the records necessarily of how these teams play. What are you looking for in that game? Like we talked about. So we just got done. We just got done finishing size for Sin City. And we go to Ozone and Only the Fam, right? Where we're like, no size, no post-ups. You post up, you're out. Damn it. Shoot the ball. And so what do you see from those two teams? Only the Fam getting ready to take on the Ozone Boys.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a real test for Only the Fam, and that is the 2-1 record legit. Is that, and then it will be also, it will show the Ozone Boys who are 0-3, but they've played 3, I think, pretty solid teams. So it's now, can they against a team that is, again, have a better record, may not be as talented as them, can they finally get that first win? And then in terms of it may ultimately just come down to who knocks down more threes. Seeing as nobody really works in the post or down low, nobody has big guys to bang down low. So I just think if Only the Fam shoots pretty well, they'll win. If Ozone Boys if they can figure out their 7 or 8 with the 7 and 8 guys, how they rotate them in and how they sub, I think they might have a good chance.
Cool. And we're going to have you guys make picks on one of the games. So you're going to do your bet the house. Tim remembers. Tim, who'd you pick last week? Is your house still bettable? Do you still own a house?
I took Sin City, so I do still have a house.
Okay, he still has a house to bet. Ryan, you do as well. Aiden said after the game he does as well. So good. Everyone's house is intact. We will lock of the week deal. We'll get there in a second. I know. Let's go to Tim so you can talk about the Halfway Crooks. Here's your chance to suck up. Halfway Crooks take on the Rhode Island Warriors next week. Rhode Island Warriors 1-2. They got their first win. Halfway Crooks 2-1. These teams played last season. I will look up what happened. I don't remember to be I'm not even trying to be a douchebag. I don't remember. But looking at this season's matchup, Tim, not even who do you got, but what's going to be a key? Like what's if is it 3-point shooting? Whoever makes more threes, right? Or rebounding, right? Whoever gets more rebounds is more likely to win. Like what do you think is the key to that matchup?
Yeah. So I haven't seen really Rhode Island Warriors this year, but I know they have Kevin Figueredo as a big, and he did play pretty well last game, 7 threes. So I think the matchup between him and Winchell is definitely going to be one to watch. Both of them have made big impacts for their team so far. For Halfway Crooks, I want to see a game where Spence Freeman takes over, goes for 40 or something. I feel like he's definitely got it in him. So I think it'll definitely be a good matchup, though.
Cool. All right. Next one. This is perfect. We'll save Werewolves and Lob City. That'll be a big one. So, Ryan, that leaves you, Bogey Kicks and Lincoln 18ers. And so we talked a little bit about it, right? Bogey Kicks coming off some tough opponents. Lincoln 18ers trying to make it close against the Werewolves. They played Only the Fam, I believe, as well. Lincoln 18ers did. Could be wrong. Either way, both teams 0-3. Ryan, your key for that one.
Yeah, I think definitely for the Lincoln 18ers, make sure Ethan Cloutier doesn't go 0-11. I think that will be a big part in if they can get the first win of the year. And then and then last week against the Wolves, they did have balanced scoring. They had 4 guys go double digits. So Cloutier did go 0-11, but if he can give them a couple more points there, maybe they could have got them over the line against Werewolves, and that could get them over the line against Bogey Kicks. And then for Bogey Kicks, I think being able just be there for DePina and support him, and then along with other guys that are out there and can shoot the 3, especially, I think that could be could play a role as well.
Awesome. Is anybody going to pick their lock of the week on Werewolves Lob City or no? Head nods quickly. Probably not. No problem. Okay, cool. So we can even if both you guys want to jump in, but the last game we'll go over, then we'll make some picks and get out. Werewolves and Lob City. And so Werewolves 2-1, Lob City 3-0. Again, a finals rematch, a double overtime finals rematch. We will talk a lot about that game. I'll give you the rundown quickly. Lob City was up. Werewolves stormed back to force overtime. Heston got fouled at the end of regulation, down 3, hit all 3 free throws with time expired. So if he misses one, they lose. and the game is just over. He makes all 3. They go into overtime. And again, it's a 2-minute overtime. We haven't seen one yet this season, but it's like so quick, right? And so, yeah, I mean, Heston actually and the Werewolves, overtimes are always most of the time close just because it's so short. Heston had a shot to win it in a tied game in the first overtime, and they had the ball at the end and they took the last shot. Missed. It was a runner. And, you guys know Lob City by now. They're going to defend, in that situation, they're defending their butts off. And then in double overtime, Greg Holt hit some big shots, and Lob City just made a couple more plays and was able to win the championship in double overtime. We'll go to Tim. We'll just keep rotating. It's all right. Then Ryan gets to make his lock of the week first. But Tim, key for Lob City and the Werewolves, besides having more than 4 guys show up for the Werewolves.
I mean, yeah, that's definitely, I would say, like, who's going to show up for the Werewolves? They had Sam Clifford the other week, had a big game. I think they would really use a player like that against Lob City. They're going to need everyone they can get, especially with how Lob plays in transition. You're going to need bodies, definitely. I just think I'm interested to see how Lob defends Brian Heston, if they're going to force the ball out of his hands, if they're going to double him. That's going to be interesting to see. Also, the big on Werewolves, Harrington.
Yep.
I'm interested to see how he matches up with Lob City's size. Obviously, Lob City's imposing up front. They have a bunch of guys that can back you down, pass out, pretty much. Yeah, they have a bunch of bigs that are very versatile. So, yeah.
Cool. All right. As promised, here we go. Brian, you're betting the house. Don't be wrong, or you're going to be homeless. Week 4, who you got? We just went through all the matchups. Which team do you think has the best chance to win their Week 4 matchup, and why?
I'm gonna take the Ozone Boys to beat Only the Fam.
Wow.
I think they're due for a win. I think they've played some tough matchups so far, and I think they're, even though I know they've played in the past, I think now with the 7-8 guys that they have, I think they're gonna be able to show up and be motivated and be able to get the first win of the year. I think that's going to be a key factor for them. So
Right,
I'm going to take Ozone Boys.
All right. So Ozone Boys, first lock. Tim, again, don't lose the house. Who you got?
All right. I'm also going to go with a little bit of not a heavy favorite. 2 0-3 teams. I'm going with Lincoln 18. Take down Bogey Kicks. I just think the Lincoln 18ers play as a team. Bogey Kicks, they're more of an individual type of player type of thing. And I think the way Lincoln plays, it's going to be hard for Bogey to guard, and I think they'll win.
All right. I like it. It is a good week of games in the sense of, I don't think there's that one matchup that is kind of the easy, this team's going to win, right? And that'll happen when Lob City plays certain teams. Like, it's just expected, right? I think there's a lot of matchups here where, no result would surprise me, a ton, which means it's a good week. So we'll see if you guys still have houses. I'll be promoting your lock, so hopefully you guys get some crap on social media. That's it for the post-game show. Good job, guys. I got a text from Gino 40 asking about the post-game show, which is what we're on right now. And then also said the podcast was great. And so if you haven't heard it yet, the Low Post podcast is back for the season. PJ Thomas and Dan Ruggiero. So Dan Ruggiero is a retired Duyes boy who may be making a comeback this season, and PJ Thomas, a current Duyes boy who claims to be retiring after this season. Again, guys, they all claim this. The Ozone Boys claim to be retiring from the league. They played. Okay, they played last night. Okay, so no one actually ever retires. Shane Patrick as well. They'll never retire. I got him forever. But those two doing the Low Post podcast, and they killed it. They had some historical stuff, and I forget who I was talking to. You guys will get there, Tim and Ryan. And again, very good job on the post game show. It's like cheating for them because they've lived the history part. Right? They've played in the league more than just this season. So they lived it. They have that background knowledge of who was on what team, what happened 3 years ago in week 7. Like, they remember that because they were there. Right. So, but that's what kind of adds that. And it's cool. And it was a good listen. So again, it's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcast, the Low Post. They'll be back this week, recapping week 3, breaking down week 4, just like we did. And guys, we'll see you guys for week 4 on Monday night. Good job. And everybody, thanks for listening.